turning on the Wi-Fi like Obama to a white guys. Temper in the center of winter filled with some white lies. But that's politics, gets colder than the wildest thing.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Six with Ian and Thomas.
Hello.
Lot going on, the final games of the seasons. A lot of big news.
Getting interesting.
Got a lot of big news coming up. We got teams, clinching more championships. Teams, unfortunately, being guaranteed as relegated this season. And a lot of news going on behind the scenes. With a lot of, other, transfer news, what might be happening behind the scenes or in the summer transfer window coming up. I'd like to start with basically what's going on in EPL this season. Obviously, City has already clinched the championship.
Weeks ago.
United have since clinched second place. So we'll be seeing two Manchester teams in Champions League next season.
That'll be
What
interesting.
we most likely won't be seeing in Champions League is, unfortunately, my boys in blue. They were very promising. In fact, they beat Liverpool 1-0 in their early week match, which that made me happy because I knew that gave us a chance to be able to possibly stay in fourth place, to be able to get into Champions League next season. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, they couldn't pull it out against Huddersfield. It was a 1-1 match, and Chelsea actually went down early. So they were, fighting back most of the game. So it is still possible. Right now, there are 3 teams confirmed for Champions League from England, and those are City, United, and Tottenham. Tottenham clinched their place just the other day with their win. The 2 teams fighting for the last place are Chelsea and Liverpool.
Yeah.
And Liverpool would have to lose their game, and Chelsea would have to win theirs. So it's not looking good for my boys. It is unfortunately looking good for his boys.
It's not guaranteed though. I mean, we're talking about Liverpool. They don't have the record that Tottenham and Arsenal have for crapping the bed at the end of the season, but their ability to become ridiculously inconsistent always rears its head when it shouldn't. So, their last match coming up. Hopefully they win, because I think it's against Watford.
See, their next match is against Leicester.
Oh, it is Leicester.
Oh, no, sorry, that's Tottenham. Sorry. It is Brighton.
Oh, that's right, Brighton and Hove. Okay, well,
Brighton and Hove.
So that kind of boosts my my confidence a little bit.
Sure.
Brighton's not going to go down without a fight, but at the same time, and Liverpool have a few worries right now. They've got some injuries. Adam Lallana's kind of limping back. He's not having the impact that that he typically has, but he's coming back from injury again. I got to tell you, we're missing Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Yes,
in the midfield.
And
he was really starting to have an impact.
I think that shows in the Chelsea-Liverpool match.
I think so, absolutely.
Because, Liverpool have been on this roll. They've been, steamrolling teams, especially in Champions League. And then, you lose that one player, and it's like a quick flip. The team almost doesn't realize how important that player is until, he's gone. Chelsea were able to pull out a 1-0 win with a goal from my new best friend, Olivier Giroud.
Oh, you had to say something like that. Jerk.
Me and Ian have never been the biggest fans of Olivier Giroud, and I think it was specifically because he played for Arsenal. I am coming to terms with the fact that he's a blue, and I think he's fitting in very well.
I think he's fitting in too. I think he's much happier, and he's performing better.
He's not starting every game, and a player of that age doesn't. He's getting older, but he's still a fantastic player. as shown by his ability to still get on the score sheet against top level teams like Liverpool. Unfortunately, it's not looking like it's gonna be enough for some Blues Champions League next season. We'll just have to wait and see.
I mean, it's still possible, like I said, with Liverpool's ability to become ridiculously inconsistent, could rear its head at the last minute. I mean, Chelsea's only 2 points behind right now. I think Liverpool and Liverpool supporters would be pretty upset if all of a sudden, we go to, winning a spot in Champions League final to not being in Champions League to defend that title if they win. At the same time, I understand where Chelsea fans are coming from. I mean, they're used to their team, being in Champions League and things like that, and competing for those top 4 spots. And they still are. They're definitely competing for that spot. And it's because, I mean, just a few weeks ago they were down to 7th or 8th place. And now they're within reaching distance of 4th place and a Champions League spot. So hats off to them. They really had a pretty bumpy middle of the season. With just Antonio Conte just kind of shaking things up a little bit, and I think the players just weren't really understanding where they were fitting in. You got guys like Eden Hazard who are all of a sudden, not playing the position they thought they should be playing. You got Willian coming in off the bench in the 80th minute, stuff like that. And I don't know if they were just resting him for something or if he wasn't feeling 100%. But when you got a player who is exciting and creative and talented as Willian is, and even as not a Chelsea supporter, all in all, he's a fantastic player. And to leave him sitting on the bench, until the 80th minute is just, to me, it's mind blowing. I don't understand it. And then you take Eden Hazard off to bring him in. It's like, what, these guys can't play together for some reason? Like I said, I don't know. And I guess most of us will never know. But Chelsea has made a pretty good fight in the last part of the season. And then, they're fighting their way back up to, they're in 5th place and 2 points behind 4th right now. Everybody with one match to play, Championship Sunday coming up. And when all the beans are on the table and everybody gets to count what they got. So it's going to be exciting.
Just a little bit of good news, kind of out of your little section. Sorry about that. But I saw a video on Instagram yesterday that showed Antonio Conte shaking the hands of every Huddersfield player and assistant, like coaching assistant, when they were going back into the tunnel at halftime. Just kind of as like a respect kind of thing, which I thought was fantastic. Because there have been a lot of reports lately that it basically confirming that he won't be back next season. I think he's had a fairly successful 2 seasons. If he does leave, he shouldn't be ashamed.
I don't think so.
He won, the cup, the League Cup, his first year, which is a fantastic achievement. And he's still in the top 5. He's guaranteed a top 5 position this season. Whether that's 4th or 5th will be determined in the following days, but still, getting back into European football is, obviously the larger goal from, a team like this. We'll just have to wait and see. There's still many reports as to who will be replacing him. I've already stated my opinion that I hope it's Luis Enrique, because that was one of the reports.
It's got to be Arsene Wenger.
Oh, God. Please don't say that.
Sorry.
Speaking of Arsene Wenger, we'll use that as a transition. After 22 years at Arsenal, his reign of god-awful terror will be coming to an end.
God-awful terror.
And that was kind of extensive. He's a fantastic manager. He knows what he's doing.
Absolutely.
And he's realized that the crowd is wanting change. After 22 years, a team needs something different. You can't.
That's what I think. Yeah.
You can't just sit there and expect it to be the same for 20 something years. It's just not going to happen. He had a standing ovation at his final home game against, I believe it was Watford.
It was Watford.
Yeah, it was Watford, which they demolished 5-0. So a fantastic sending off from the Emirates.
It was actually Burnley.
5-0 that's right.
Burnley.
Still, a fantastic send off from his final game at the Emirates.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Hopefully they can pull off something at their final match against Huddersfield, because they were outed 1-0 in their most recent match against 3-1 against Leicester.
Yeah.
Which is kind of surprising, after you see a 5-0 win from a team like that, and then all of a sudden, they're out 3-1.
Yeah.
And I think that might be kind of a morale bust after they got kicked out of Europa League in the semifinals by Atletico, which is a huge hit to a team like that, basically proving that there is no European football for them next season.
Yeah, and they're not going to finish any higher than 6th place, which is where they are right now. They're 10 points behind 5th place Chelsea. Unless they miraculously come up with 10 points in a 3-point match, they're out of European football next year.
Yeah,
but I think it's going to be kind of a good thing for them in the grand scheme of things, because Arsene Wenger stepping down. He didn't announce a retirement, so he's just leaving Arsenal. So where he ends up, is still remains to be seen. But it's going to be a good time for Arsenal to kind of sit back, assess what they've got, assess what they need, and then go find
exactly
and rebuild a team that you called it a god awful terror. A team like Chelsea. I don't even know where that's at. They're in South London, I think, somewhere. But Arsenal is a team that is synonymous with European football. Powerhouse team. And they're not going to be there right now. So give them the time to rebuild. I even saw an article somewhere, I forget where it was, but they said there's 3 players they're looking for right now. I didn't read the whole thing. I just kind of skimmed it. But it said that if they get these 3 players, they will definitely be champion contenders next season. So,
and I think being out of European contention will be good for the new manager.
Sure.
When they come in, take a season to really assess the team.
Right.
Find the strengths, find the weaknesses, fill the holes. Have a good first season, obviously, because you want to be able to stay as the manager after one season. Looking at you, David Moyes.
Ow.
Sorry, that was rude.
That was savage.
And then next season, look back and say, okay, so this is what we did right the first season. This is what we did wrong. We can now fix it. And now that we've gotten a good place in England, we can move on to Champions League or Europa League.
Sure,
depending on where they finish. I think this is a good thing for them.
I think so.
I think it's a good change for Arsenal. It's a good change for a lot of the players there. It's going to kind of probably end up being the end of the Arsenal career for a lot of players. I'm thinking of Mesut Ozil specifically. He's been getting a lot of hate recently.
He's just not performing, though. I mean, I think a lot of the ire that he's collecting is his own doing. I mean, I don't know if it's just his confidence or he just doesn't. He's just not feeling it anymore. I don't know but he's not the Mesut Ozil of just a few years ago.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys in the midfield that was going to create something no matter what, and he's just not doing that anymore. So whether a new manager comes in and maybe reignites his fire, or like you said, it ends his Arsenal career and he moves somewhere else, hopefully that changes things for him. But
to move on just a little bit, we'll go through the last couple scores from the EPL that were really important, such as the Southampton-Swansea game.
yeah, that was a big
West
one.
Brom had avoided relegation for the entire month of April. And unfortunately, they were just not able to hold out, and it wasn't anything that they could do. West Brom will be relegated at the end of the season. And like I said, they fought for an entire month of April. It came to the Swansea-Southampton game, and Swansea lost 1-0 to Southampton. That gave Southampton just enough points to push past. And it also kind of ended their own season.
Yeah.
They will be... Actually, no, it ended Swansea's season as well.
Yeah, it ends in Swansea season.
Because we were kind of going over the math earlier. The only way for Swansea to stay in the top flight football is if they are able to win their next match by 10 goals and Southampton loses.
Yeah. And it's just on goal differential, because Swansea's in 18th place. They're in the first spot of the relegation, 3 points behind Southampton. So if Southampton loses, Swansea wins. That puts them even on points, but the goal differential is 10. So Swansea has to win their match by 10 goals. And considering that, they've only scored 27 the entire season. And even for a team like, Manchester City, I think scoring 10 goals is on the outside chance. So my money's on Swansea's relegated. I think the relegation table is pretty much set at this point. It's going to be Swansea, West Brom, and Stoke. I don't think there's much that's going to change that. Because the goal differential, Stoke's guaranteed gone, and they got 30 points. West Brom's got 31. So, and I think they're done too.
Yeah.
And Swansea has a chance that's so small, it's not even worth mentioning. So, like I said, I think the relegation table's set. The only thing we're looking for right now is third place, fourth place, fifth place. Actually, fourth place and fifth place, because third place is actually set.
Yep.
Tottenham's guaranteed that. That's what's going to happen on Championship Sunday.
To kind of transition a little bit better, the three teams from last season that were moved up. Just to see if it was Brighton and Hove.
Yep.
Huddersfield.
Yep.
And West Ham. No,
it was not West Ham.
it was Burnley, wasn't it?
I think it was Burnley.
I can't remember exactly which teams were moved up last season.
No.
Anyways, this was I believe the first time in a while, or it's only the third time in Premier League history that all three teams who were recently promoted have stayed in the Premier League. Which means we've got three all new teams going down. And I'm very excited for next season because we've got some strong teams coming up. From the Championship.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Such as Wolverhampton. It's been a while since they've been there. I know a Wolverhampton fan personally, and he's very excited. So the next season is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm so.
Very excited for that. To kind of move on to international ball. Barcelona and Villarreal had one of their final matches of the season, and in classic Barcelona fashion, they outed Villarreal 5-1. It was an absolute demolishing. And we've got some special news in that game coming up at the end of the episode. But it was a good way to celebrate the fact that Barcelona have a double this season. They were able to finally bring in the trophy to the first time to a game, for the cup or the league, and they also had the Copa del Rey final, which they won recently. And just to kind of piss Ian off, in 6 years,
I knew it was coming.
at 6 years at Liverpool, Philip Coutinho won 0 trophies. In just a couple months at Barcelona, he's already got 2.
Okay, yeah, but he's not going to have Champions League.
That's not guaranteed. Just saying.
Hey, don't smash my dreams, man.
I'm still gonna root for Liverpool for that game, just because I want to see Real Madrid lose.
I do too.
I mean that's really it from international football. We can go over Europa League, and we already kind of did with Arsenal being knocked out by Atletico in the semifinals. The final has been set for Marseille against Atletico Madrid. So those are 2 teams that are not as well known, but are still very good teams, and they have very good players.
That match will be played on the 16th of May, by the way.
Yes. So we've got the 16th will be coming up. That'll be next episode, so we'll be able to cover that next episode. Yep. And then just a couple episodes after that, we'll be going over Champions League final, and the hype over that, to see who is the king of Europe this season, especially since the big hubbub behind it is who's gonna win the Ballon d'Or. Everybody's saying, well, if Real Madrid wins, Ronaldo's gonna win the Ballon d'Or. If Liverpool wins, Mo Salah's gonna get the Ballon d'Or. And unfortunately, the way that I see, the Football Association, kind of looking at that, I believe that's true. It's kind of sad to hear, it's all about who wins one game.
It's not necessarily one game. I mean, how many games do you have to win to get to the final of Champions League?
That's true.
So and with everything up to the final, there's 2 legs. So every time you got to a new round, that's 2 matches. And you don't necessarily have to win them all. I mean, look at Roma, beat Liverpool in the second leg, but didn't get through. So it doesn't come down to one game. I think it's a little bit lopsided. I think I agree with you on the fact that it comes down to who wins the championship, the final of the Champions League, to decide who's going to win Ballon d'Or. Because your team didn't win doesn't mean you couldn't possibly be the best player. Because you got guys like Leo Messi who are still destroying defenses.
Exactly.
And then even if Liverpool lose, which in my dreams they don't, Mohamed Salah has had one of the best seasons of soccer in recent history. So for he's my vote. I mean, and maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a Liverpool supporter, but I think he's in the news more. He's gotten award after award. I mean, granted, they're all PFA Player of the Month, but he got PFA Player of the Year too. So he's got my vote just based on those things. And I think he'd be maybe feel a little hard done, if he doesn't win the Ballon d'Or, just because Liverpool, if they lose that final match. So
hopefully, like I said, I'm rooting for Liverpool. I know you're rooting for Liverpool. Yes. But I don't think it should be up to who wins this game, to see who wins the league, or to who wins the Ballon d'Or. But we'll just have to wait and see. I'm glad that there was somebody else this season who's kind of come in, thrown a small wrench in the works, as to who usually wins. For the past decade, it's been Ronaldo or Messi, Ronaldo or Messi, Ronaldo or Messi. The last season we had Ronaldo or Messi, maybe Neymar.
I would say maybe Neymar.
Probably not, but maybe Neymar. And this season, we've got a legitimate contender. A lot of critics are saying, Mo Salah could win this.
Right.
Which would be, huge for England, huge for Liverpool as a whole. But we'll just have to wait and see. And unfortunately, it's not up to us. It's not a vote thing. It's just who, the board decides to give it to.
Yeah.
I want to give a couple shout outs to kind of start closing off the episode. Shout out to PSG, who were able to clinch the French league title in their recent game. Not a big surprise there. PSG has always been a dominant force from France. Even without Neymar, they're able to win games and obviously clinch this. Shout out to Juventus, who after a very hard fought season, were able to beat AC Milan 5-0, which gave them the Coppa Italia. So they were able to clinch the Italian League Cup. And then that's really all I have for this episode. We can kind of to move on to Ian's happy corner of the episode. I'm gonna start calling it that
because that's what I'm known for, the happy corner.
I'm gonna make a banner and a whole little special intro for that just for you.
Outstanding.
Right now. And now for Ian's happy corner.
I got a couple of things. First off, Sir Alex Ferguson went into emergency surgery. He had a brain hemorrhage, and Manchester United happily announced yesterday, I think, on Wednesday actually, that he has been removed from intensive care. He no longer needs intensive care and is recovering well. So everybody in the football world, there were some really classy Manchester City fans who held up a sign during their match, get well, Fergie. So we want to wish him the best of recovery, speedy recovery. He's an absolute legend in the game, and we want to wish him well.
Just a small addition to that. I don't know if you saw it, but Ronaldo in his recent game for Real Madrid scored a goal and refused to celebrate. And after the game, he was asked, why didn't you celebrate your goal? And this isn't verbatim, but he said basically, why would I celebrate when the man who taught me football is in the hospital?
Wow.
So basically, he obviously he knows Fergie well because
sure.
He played for United at the beginning of his career.
Yeah.
That's a class act from Ronaldo. And he's obviously a very classy player. I don't have anything against him. He's one of the best players in the world, and he absolutely deserves everything he earns. That's another class act from him.
Yeah,
and
that's
all I had.
Well done. And then there was one that Thomas brought to my attention. I wasn't aware of this one, and it's really cool, especially with Mother's Day coming up. Barcelona and Villarreal had a game this past weekend. Barca won 5-1. Not surprising that Barcelona wins a football match. But they did a really cool thing. Rakuten, however you pronounce their main sponsor, their jersey sponsor, put each player's mother's name on their jersey instead of their name. So Lionel Messi had his mom's name on his jersey, and they wore them during the match, which was really cool. Just a really cool thing to do. I thought that was neat. And my final thing is kind of a local shout out for Thomas and I. This is one of Thomas's former mentors and a friend of both of ours. Mr. and Mrs. Eric Oddie are celebrating recently their third wedding anniversary. Great couple. Eric is a great goalkeeper. And Hannah, his wife, is an incredibly nice young lady. And they've got a brand new baby several months old. But anyway, they announced their third wedding anniversary. So we want to give them a shout out. Happy anniversary, Eric and Hannah, and many, 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 many more to come from Thomas and I here at Inside the Six. And Hammers Till I Die, by the way. So that's what I have for Happy Corner.
Did you want to shout out the former Hammers player?
I do, yes. There is a local guy here for Thomas and I, and just for anybody who's watching outside the area, we are from Wilmington, North Carolina, and we had a USL team here, the Wilmington Hammerheads. They're no longer a team, but we have a former player. His name is Junior Zarate. Junior is a wonderful guy. He runs a restaurant here in town. He also plays in the Wilmington Adult Soccer Leagues in the Open Division. He's still a phenomenal player. He and I are actually pretty close in age, but I mean, he's kept himself in much better shape than I have. But he has recently been given a diagnosis of a fairly aggressive form of cancer. So he and his family have started a GoFundMe to help offset some of the costs of the medical bills that will be coming. We're going to attach that link here for Junior Zarate, and we hope that you join us in supporting him and his family in this fight. My understanding right now is his spirits are still pretty good, and we want to keep them that way because he really is a happy cat. This dude is always smiling. He's fun to play against. He is going to smoke everybody I know on a soccer field. Like I say, even at his age, I've played against him. I've played with him, and it's always been fun. So we want to make sure he stays in good spirits. We don't want him to have to worry about other things. He does have a wife and children. So like I say, we'll provide that link for you, and we encourage you, to share that link, donate if you have the means. Please donate if you have the means. And then share it to other people, and just keep sharing it so we can keep this guy in as good health as possible. And, just because we're on a YouTube channel, I can't say it the way I want to, but F cancer, so shout out to you, Junior. We're pulling for you. We want you to get well. We want you to get well soon because we enjoy seeing you on a soccer field.
Good luck, man.
And that's everything I have.
Like Ian said, that link will be in the description. I will also put it on our Facebook page and our Twitter page. So if you follow any of those, you can look at those as well. Share those around. I think with that's all we have for this episode of Inside the Six. I would like to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Macrophonic MC. You guys have heard us say it 13 times at this point. Now it's 14. Thank you for this awesome music you create. Thank you for allowing us to put it in our videos.
Thanks, bro.
And make sure you check out our social media in the description. Check out our merch shops as well. Those will be in the description. And this is Ian and Thomas for Inside the Six signing off. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Still holding on to Wi-Fi like Obama to a white guys. Temper in the center of when the bill with some white lies. But that's politics, gets colder than the wildest thing. There's so many multitasking, they multi-taxing in spite of it. But I might go big, fighting it, standing aside and timing it. Go ahead and peak my temper, I'll meditate and then write it. Time to fit my mode.